Yo, what's good? What's good? This is another reaction video of there's quite an interesting turn of events that's happening, and it's hard for me to believe that it's very hard for me to believe that all these things ain't related. There isn't no corruption involved in the US government and anything international. There is corruption everywhere, and with everything being done in this US presidential term right here, in this 4 years that's going to be done, that is being done, there is an opposite power that's trying to stop Trump from doing good for America. It's trying to stop it. So basically, Trump's tariff power has been taken away by a court, a federal court. I want to see what this guy says so I can get better information, but his Liberation Day tariffs has just been stopped. Okay? And then after we watch this video, I'm gonna go to ChatGPT and I'm gonna make sure that this guy is telling the truth, or this guy is being factual with his information, because I need y'all to be informed, and I also need myself to be informed. So when I enter these debates, I'm right and they're wrong and they're looking stupid.
It is now unanimously ruled that Trump doesn't have tariff.
Hold on. So federal court. Okay.
Tonight, a three-judge panel in New York has effectively blocked almost all of Trump's disastrous tariffs. Trump's tariffs against Mexico and Canada, his tariffs against the EU, against China, his tariffs against uninhabited islands with nothing but penguins and snow. They are all blocked by this federal court decision. It comes out of the United States Court of International Trade, which is a specialized court you may or may not have ever heard of.
Okay, so she's obviously biased. Let's listen to this guy.
The U.S. Court of
Let's listen to this guy.
International Trade has now unanimously ruled that Trump doesn't have tariff authority. So his Liberation Day tariffs, they've been ruled illegal and they're now permanently blocked unless he gets an emergency stay. They also blocked the so-called fentanyl tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China from earlier this year when we were all 9 years younger. You know, the market is absolutely exploding with the news. But getting into more specifics, you have the court saying that Trump does not have the legal authority to declare a national emergency, that tariff power solely resides with Congress, and that Trump violated the Constitution, and that the law he cited to do this, it doesn't give him the authority to do tariffs. Right, all of this coming from a lawsuit that was brought by several states and several companies, including a wine cellar. Them arguing that the law that Trump cited to do this, it doesn't even mention tariffs, and that he was imposing taxes on Americans without their consent. All of which would mean, while almost all of the tariffs are done and blocked for now, the tariffs on cars, car parts, and steel and aluminum, they would still be in play because Trump used a different law for that. But again, the futures market is exploding. The dollar is increasing in value. Other currencies are currently falling just as fast. At least as I'm recording this, and you have legal experts saying that the court decision here, it has him dead to rights, and that he actually doesn't have the authority in any universe to do this. But this also is, one, you have lawyers saying, well, maybe they just need to use a different law. And two, Trump is now appealing this decision because, you know, tariffs are like his favorite thing. But if he doesn't get an emergency stay on this ruling, the tariffs would essentially be over, at least for now. Right, and with this, you're seeing people kind of split. You know, some saying that this is the perfect off-ramp for the White House. They can just let the whole tariff episode fade into the background and take credit for the economy. But then you have others saying, yeah, maybe it's perfect for the White House and Republicans, but not for Trump, so that's why they're appealing. But
Okay, so the International Court. Let's go to ChatGPT now. The International Court. I love this app. Just put this app. I'll just sprinkle this app on everything, just like hot sauce. You know what I'm saying? Just sprinkle it on everything. Okay. The Trump's tariffs have been blocked by an international court. What are these courts? And is there any way possible that Trump could stop this from happening and continue his Liberation Day tariffs and continue his economy plan? See, with ChatGPT, you got to be smart. You got to be a person that knows how to ask questions. You see what I'm saying? You got to know how to ask questions. Let's see what ChatGPT says right now, man. A U.S. federal court has recently blocked former President Trump from Liberation Day tariffs, ruling that he exceeded his authority under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977. The Court of International Trade has determined that the IEEPA does not grant the president unlimited power to impose broad tariffs without congressional approval. Oh, damn. We got some very smart. Yo, listen, man. The one thing I'll give the people that want to stop Trump from bringing the US back to manufacturing independence, to reintroduce people from other countries to, if you want to have access to the ultimate consumer capital of the world, that you got to pay a membership fee. You guys have been eating for too long, so it's time for us to eat. These guys that don't want that to happen, because if Obama did this, they would have no problems. But Trump is doing it, and Trump goes against the narrative. He goes against the narrative. This is what I want y'all to understand. If the narrative does not play towards what the narrative needs to be for things to, for control and the matrix to keep being the matrix, they're not gonna go with it. Okay? They're not gonna go with it. Court's rationale for blocking the tariffs. The court has found that the IEEPA does not authorize the president to oppose such sweeping tariffs, as trade imbalances do not constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat under the Act. Additionally, the court emphasized that tariff authority primarily resides with Congress, and the president's actions infringe upon this legislative power. Oh my God. The potential avenues for reinstating tariffs. While the court decision is a significant setback, the Trump administration has options to pursue its trade agenda. This is why I love ChatGPT. Okay. Number 1, appeal the decision. The administration can appeal to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. Number 2, utilize alternative legal provisions. The president might invoke other trade laws to impose tariffs. Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974 allows the president to impose tariffs of up to 15% for 150 days without congressional approval. That's number 1. Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974 permits tariffs in response to unfair trade practices. Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 authorizes tariffs for national security reasons. Section 338 of the Tariff Act of 1930 enables tariffs against countries that discriminate against U.S. commerce. Yeah, he might go after that one. These are very valid points of action. The court. Okay, so what do y'all think about this? Make sure you like and subscribe to the video. Make sure y'all like and subscribe to the video. Implications for Trump's economic plan. The court's ruling disrupts the administration's broader economic strategy, which relied on the Liberation Day tariffs to generate revenue and protect domestic industries. The decision introduces uncertainty into trade policy and may impact ongoing negotiations and economic planning.
This is our great.
A U.S. federal trade court has blocked President Donald Trump's Liberation Day tariffs from going into effect. Wednesday's ruling from the Manhattan-based Court of International Trade said the president had overreached his authority. The court said Congress is empowered by the Constitution to regulate international commerce, and the president's use of emergency powers does not override that power. The Trump administration appealed the ruling within minutes. Trump had claimed broad authority in order to impose his tariffs in April. He cited an emergency powers law, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, to set 10% duties on all imports. Countries with the highest US trade deficits saw even higher rates, particularly China. The law has historically been used for sanctions against Washington's enemies, but Trump is the first US president to use it to impose tariffs, as he had argued the trade deficit was a national emergency. A three-judge panel disagreed in Wednesday's ruling, saying, "The court does not pass upon the wisdom or likely effectiveness of the president's use of tariffs as leverage. That use is impermissible not because it is unwise or ineffective, but because federal law does not allow it." That ruling came after a pair of lawsuits. One was filed by the nonpartisan Liberty Justice Center on behalf of 5 small US businesses. They ranged from a wine and spirits importer to a maker of musical instruments, all importing goods targeted by tariffs. The other lawsuit was brought by the Democratic Attorneys General of 13 US states. The White House and lawyers for groups that sued did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Stephen Miller, a White House Deputy Chief of Staff and leading Trump advisor, said in a brief social media post, quote, "The judicial coup is out of control."
Let's enter into our conspiracy bag for a little bit. The market was on its way up. The market is on its way up. Everything that people said about the market, everything that people said about how Trump has been destroying the market, everything has been reversing. Everything has been reversing. Maybe not as fast as people would like, but if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, after Liberation Day, literally a month after Liberation Day, April 2nd, things started to take its turn. Things started to go in the opposite direction. Instead of going down, things started to spiral up. Wow, the narrative is changing. This guy is, he's making the markets look good. Bitcoin has hit 110,000. Crypto market's doing good. S&P 500. It has regained its losses. It has went back to normal operating senses. Okay, the trend line has moved from bear to bull. The narrative has changed. U.S. trade courts, over the months, over the weeks, trade courts have been stopping Trump from doing multiple things. Have been stopping Trump from sending off illegal immigrants that had committed crimes. There was actually a time when some Democrat officials went to certain countries to get back criminals, certain criminals that have been sent back home. This has been happening literally on TV, on the news, on X, on TikTok, everywhere. You've been seeing these things. Courts blocking, courts getting appealed, courts having to re-reverse. There is warfare happening within the United States. There is literal warfare happening every day in the United States within the government, because the government that has been leeching off you and me for decades, the government that have been sending fentanyl, have been bringing in fentanyl without their knowledge or with their knowledge, that have been bringing undocumented immigrants, not knowing who they are. Some actually want asylum. Some actually want a better life. And then there's some that want to wreak havoc. But you don't know who these people are because they haven't been vetted. The courts have been stopping this. There is many wars happening around the world. And there is a war happening within the United States itself. The presidency, the administration versus everything outside of the narrative of making Trump seem like the good guy. I'm not surprised by this. You shouldn't be neither. This was bound to happen, and it's gonna keep happening throughout the 4 years. It's gonna keep happening. Um. Oh, and the big beautiful bill had been signed too. That defeats the narrative of this guy being bad. You must go back to this guy being bad. We must have the courts stop him. And then they succeeded. We'll see what happens. We'll see if things get reversed. We'll see if Trump's lawyer team find a loophole to this. But this was a very genius plan to stop him, I must say. So go to the comments, like, comment, subscribe. See if you think that Trump will find a way to reverse this, because the tariff powers have been bringing all the countries into our doorstep. Every country has been coming into our doorstep wanting to work, wanting to make a deal. And now that leverage have been severed. It has been severed.
Trump has said his tariffs are intended to restore US manufacturing, but suspending, delaying, or raising them since his tariff decisions have sent shockwaves and uncertainty through financial markets. At least 5 other legal challenges to the tariffs are pending.
Damn. What you gonna do, Donald? You gonna fold, or you gonna keep the train moving? I'm out of here.